Hey guys, Kristian Mischke here. We'll be going over drawing and coloring. Okay, so in Scratch we have sprites which just kind of automatically are drawn to the screen. In processing, however, we have to do it kind of manually. Of course, there are other more advanced ways which I'll get into in other lessons on how to put images to the screen. But right now, we're just going to draw basic shapes. So let's start with our void setup. Let's give it a size of 600 by 500 pixels, maybe. And let's use this thing, which I showed briefly in the last episode, void draw. This loops infinitely until the program is stopped and draws stuff to the screen. Draws stuff to the screen. Okay. Now inside of here we can do lots of things. The first thing is, well, when we run it, it doesn't really do anything that noticeable yet. Okay. Here we have our window. It's just gray and boring. Let's give it some color. Okay, so we're going to change the background. And that's quite simple with the function background. Now, the background gets a little bit confusing. Draw a background with background red, green, blue. Okay, so we have to fill in these colors, red, green, and blue. And that's how you draw the background. Now you notice, the first thing you'll notice is that there's no yellow and that these don't seem to be the primary colors. Well, in fact, they are the primary colors, but they're not the primary colors of pigment, they are the primary colors of light. So everything on the screen is being drawn with these three colors. Now, we can't really just pick random colors because we don't really know how that works yet. So here's a really handy tool you can use over here called colorpicker.com. Click on the window if you want to go there now. You can just drag these bars and get the these values here, which are another set of things, hue, saturation, and brightness, but we're not going to go over those. We're going to go over red, green, and blue. So these three bottom values are the ones we're focused on. Let's give our background a color. First, let's start with basic white. Now you notice that this has all values at the highest, and the highest is 255. Okay, so 255 is the highest, and when you mix all light together, you get white. Probably learned that in science. We no longer have our boring gray, but now we have a bright white. Okay, now in the same way, or I should say in the opposite way, if we have all our values at the lowest value, we should have no light, and thus black. So let's use 0. Run that. Drag it up here. And it's black, like we expected. Okay, let's start mixing our light together. So, you can expect if the other two values are 0, that means that there's going to be none of the color there. So, we have red. What happens if you make red at its full value? We should expect to have a red screen. Indeed we do. Try that with green. Just put red at 0. That means there's 0 red, full green, and 0 blue. We have a ugly, limeish, I don't know, green. Not the basic green, not really green you want to look for. Okay, now we have 0 red, 0 green, and full blue. Run it again, and we should expect a blue screen. A deep, well, bright blue. Very pretty. Okay. We can mix these values together. You're probably wondering how on earth you get yellow with red, green, and blue? Well, it just so happens to turn out that when you mix red and green together, you get yellow. So if we mix these at full, we'll get the fullest yellow. Like so. Okay, you can go back to colorpicker.com. Whoops, bring it up here. And pick whatever color you want. Say you're having trouble fiddling with the values, and you just want to pick a color, like an interesting color like this one, kind of neutrally. How about like that? Okay, so our values are right here, here, and here. Let's drag this to this half of the screen so we can see them. So the red, represented by the R here, it says 101, so I can type that in here. The green, represented by the G here, is 219, so we'll put that there. And blue, 192, represented with the B. 192. Whoops, there we go. Okay, run this. Bring the window up, and you'll see it's the exact same color. Works like a charm. Okay. So, if you ever need help finding a color, Color Picker is your place to go. Just click on this half of the screen if you want to go there. You can set it as a bookmark if you want. Okay. Now, the rest of this video, I'll be going over the references. Okay, I'll be going over some of these 2D primitive functions. Okay, we've already done point, as you learned in the last lesson. So now the next thing, well, you obviously don't want to draw the entire screen with points. So we should draw I don't know, let's draw an ellipse, okay? We can make a circle with an ellipse too. Actually, I'll leave this up here for reference. Okay. So you can look at this side of the screen if you want. Okay, so an ellipse has 4 values. And it says it right down here. We got A, B, C, and D. Very bad represented letters. Okay. We got the X, Y, width, height. I'll draw that and write that in here. Okay, so we have ellipse, X, Y, width, or X radius, and height, or Y radius. Because it's based on radius, not from one end to the other. Okay, so we can do this with ellipse. Where do we want to draw it? Let's draw it just at 100 pixels in by 100 pixels in. If you did not watch my previous video on graphs, I recommend you do that now so that you will know how these X and Y coordinates work. Okay. So let's make the width and height the same number. Let's make let's make all the values. Well, no. Let's make it 50 and 50. Here we go. Here we are. The default coloring for shapes is white fill and black stroke or outline. And here it is, 100 pixels in, 100 pixels down, then it's 50 in each direction. Okay. Since it is an ellipse, you can increase just the width or just the height. Let's increase the width. Let's make that 100. Here we are, our nice ellipse. Okay, we don't want a white and black ellipse, so let's give it some color. Let's make these bright colors. Let's make it a bright green. How about that? Kind of goes with our background, maybe. Okay, so let's make the inside the fill. This is called fill, and you put it in a color just like in background, just like there. Let's make it green. So remember, we have red, green, and blue. That's how colors work. 0 red, 255 for green, so we want all green, and 0 blue. Run this. Bring the window back up here. There we are, green. Actually looks pretty nice. Now that black outline's looking a little disturbing to me, so let's make it more like a gray. How about that? So this function is called stroke, which is the outline, and you also put in a color in here. So let's give it like 100, 100, 100. that's, I'm sorry, what did I do wrong? Oh, whoops, no comma. Okay, let's try that. Okay, here we are. So it's a gray color. Now with the other two colors, it's a little bit hard to like tell that it's gray. So I'll do another function called stroke, W-E-I-G-H-T, stroke weight. Now, I showed you this in the last video, but I did not explain what it was, so I will here. Stroke weight is the weight of the stroke, so it is the thickness of the outline. I don't know why they call it weight. It confused me at first too, but that's just what they decided to name it. Okay, so let's give it a stroke weight of 5. I mean, if it were me, I would call it stroke width. Okay. Here we go. Now you can see it's gray. Now, when you're typing in a value which all three values are the same for a color, like 100, 100, 100, there's no point in doing that because there's a simple way where you can just type in one number, just 100. Okay? This makes it so that all three values, red, green, and blue, are this value, so all 100. So if we run this, we'll get the same color as before. As you can see, did not change anything. Just made it a little bit easier to read, I guess. Okay, so that's ellipse. Let's draw our next shape. Okay, we can go in the library, or reference, back to references. Let's draw a line. That's pretty simple. We can draw lines with x1, y1, x2, y2, and then if you're doing 3D, there's a z, but we're not going to do that. 3D is whole other lesson. So, let's copy this line so I can just put it in the code. Okay, that's our reference. Now, so we type in line. Let's draw it from the top corner, top left, to the very center. Now, okay, let's make it dash the entire screen. Okay, so we're going to put the x1 and y1 at 0, 0, so that's 1 point. These two are 1 point. And then the next two are at the other point. Now we're going to do width, so all the way across the screen in this direction, and height, all the way to the bottom of the screen. Make sure you watch the last video to learn what these are. And here we go. So you'll notice that line is drawn with the color and properties of stroke, not with fill. And here we are, a line dashing through the entire screen. Okay, that's line. Let's just make the line red. Stroke. That would be 255, 0, 0. Run the program. What do we expect? Done. Okay. I don't like the red look. Let's make it blue. Okay, that's better. Next up is going to be called quad. Okay, oh no, not quad. Sorry, I don't want to do that next. I want to do rectangle. Here we are. Okay, so for the rectangle, there's 3 things you can do, but we have rect. We got the x and the y, and the width and the height. Okay, so now the default setting for rectangle, we have this thing called rect mode right here. And it is default set to the upper left hand corner. That's just like when you run the program. You know how the origin is at this end of the corner? Well, the origin of this is at this end of the corner, is at the same corner. So when you draw it, the x and y represent the upper left-hand corner. If that makes sense. Okay, let's draw it at the center then. Rect, width divided by 2. We did this in the last lesson. Height divided by 2. And let's just give it 150 width, 150 width, and 150 height. Run this and see what happens. Okay, here we go. This is the center of the screen, and the rectangle sticks out of it, because the rectangle is drawn at the upper left-hand corner, which is the default. You can change the rect mode, however. It is default set, and you can set it either in the draw loop or up here at start, or at setup. We can do rect mode, and it's normally set to corner, like so, but we can set it to center, and these words turn green when they are correct, or when they're valid. Okay, so now if we run it, we'll have a completely different result. It is drawn at the center now and extended outward, like kind of like it's the radius. Okay, that looks good. Let's just go over a few more. As you see over here that these rectangles have rounded corners, I'm not going to go over that. You can just read this page and learn about it, and basically you just type in one extra value for the rounding, but you can look at it here. Okay, we're going to go over another one. Triangle. 3 points. x1, y1, x2, y2, x3, y3. It's a lot of data, but it makes sense, so it's just 3 points. Point 1, point 2, point 3. Okay, simple enough. I'll copy this in for reference. Here we are. Triangle. Where do we want to draw a triangle? Well, kind of have to do some math to figure this out. Or we can just type in some random values and hope for something. But let's make the first point at the origin. So 0, 0. That's point 1. Okay, point 2 we'll do at the center. Width divided by 2. Height divided by 2. And the final point we'll do at the width, at 0 on the x and full on the height. So that means that it's all the way down in the corner. And if you could have already figured this out, and it will display a triangle like so. 0, 0, the origin, the center of the screen, full height. There's our triangle. You can put those 3 points anywhere you want, and it'll draw that triangle. We can also, we can again change our triangle's fill. If we don't want this color, we could give it a dull blue maybe, so like 0, 0, 100 or something, like the sort. Once you get used to the coloring, you can kind of figure out colors on your own without using a color picker. See, dull dark blue like that. Okay. Looks good. Okay. One more function and then I'll end this video. We got the quad. Last simplistic one. Quad is one more thing than the triangle is. It's 4 points and represented by 4 points. Here we go. x1, y1, x2, y2, x3, y3, x4, y4. Whew, that was a mouthful. You can probably guess how this works. So now we have to decide where these points are going to go. And there's a lot of values there. Okay, let's start it at the center of the screen. We're kind of covering up all the other stuff, but whatever. Okay, second one, let's put it at the center of the screen plus a little bit. So let's add 50 on the x. So that'll be to the right a bit. And height divided by 2. And let's subtract 50. Okay, then let's push out the next one. 0 on the X and full, well, no. Let's do full on the width and 0 on the height. And then one more point. Let's just put in an arbitrary number, 600, 600. Okay, now, this is 1 point, this is point 1, point 2, point 3, and point 4, so we should be good. Okay, something did not go right. The function quad int does not exist. Excuse me? Oh, I'm sorry, I spelled it wrong. It's quad. Stupid me. Happens to every video. No. You'll notice other people have this problem. Okay, now it just looks like there's another triangle, so I guess this was a bad representation. So I'm going to change the values up a bit because it looks like it's triangle. So I'm going to do whoops, what did I do? Okay, let's make these two values like 300, 300 instead. Okay, this will be a better representation for what I want to show. Kind of. Yep, here we are. This is our quad. It's got 4 points. It can be kind of inverted like it is here or whatever. So you can change this last point to make it look better, I think, if you make it 400, 400. But yeah, you can just play around with all 4 points to make it look better or worse, like I just did. Yep. Let's not make this 400. Let's make it 200. Just to make it look cool. So, there we go. There we go. Good representation of a quad. Boom, 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 boom. 4 corners. Before something wacky was going on. But you can see how it still draws it when it was wacky. So that's drawing shapes to the screen. You can change the fills right before all of these. Draw shapes to the screen. Draw as much as you can. Just get practice drawing shapes. Make little figures if you want. Stick men. And get used to it. Give things different colors, different stroke weights. And thanks for watching. Goodbye. See you guys later.